February 19th. Roll call.
Lang.
Here.
Roll here. Valeska.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Student Rep Piper Johnson here. And President Coombs.
Here.
And Parker is absent, student rep.
Pledge allegiance.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Welcome to visitors. Who's here with us today? Awesome.
I'm Mitchell Brinkmeyer. I'm also from the University of Iowa. We're classmates, so we're here.
Awesome. Welcome. Celebrations of achievement.
Natalie, you want to? Oh. Yep, we have 34 juniors and 9 seniors that were inducted into the National Honor Society. Most recently, Piper Johnson being one of them.
Congratulations, Piper.
Boys wrestling have 7 representing our school up at the state meet. Boys basketball ended the season as conference champions. And then we had our robotics, which visited us last year about this time. The deductive thinkers, they qualified to compete in the championships that are going to be at the Extreme Arena on the 27th.
Tim, do you know if it's always an Extreme Arena or is that new?
It used to be out of the Marriott, which is now something else, but it's
The Hyatt
yeah,
now,
the
right?
Hyatt,
Yeah.
the University of Iowa, College of Engineering, is like the coordinating group for the hosting the FTC, so they recruit the volunteers to run it.
Yeah, this is robotics second consecutive year as champions, and so they're headed to the state regional champs, so.
And always impressive, our National Honor Society and how our kids do in school. That seems like a large number. Does anybody know?
Was that a little larger than most years? And then, you know, what's nice is they all are required to do a project,
Yep.
which always.
The ceremony was real well done. I mean, it was very nice. They did a very good job.
Yeah.
All the students, you know, even the ones from before that gave little talks and speeches, it went really well.
And is Amanda still, who's doing?
Robert Taylor.
Oh, Robert Taylor.
Is kind of the head.
Good.
Yeah, and then there is and a supporting link. There is a video that just kind of reviews projects. Video
Gotcha.
about the projects.
You have an idea what you're gonna do, Piper?
I was gonna have an intramural basketball tournament and have them want to go to like smaller basketball teams.
Oh.
But I haven't really thought that much about it.
Yeah.
Or my mother suggested something about like a toy drive for dogs.
There you go.
Something like that. I don't remember.
Or you should volunteer
A
to
rescue Piper.
walk people.
Rescue.
You should volunteer to walk dogs for people.
There you go. You got one?
I got 4 you can take out for that night.
Or.
See, there's a hook.
That's right. You're gonna learn a lot in this. Sometimes it's gonna be one to say no. Well, that's great. The 7 wrestlers, that was surprising, actually. I think that 7 got through and boys and girls basketball, and they're getting ready to go to state, which will hopefully be for both teams. So, and then it's always good that our robotics team, are they still in the basement here on Wednesday night or Thursday?
The lights were on downstairs as I came in, so.
Gotcha. All right, district reports, focus on learning.
Yeah, so this is a follow-up from our board work session and conversation more geared towards our discussion on grading and assessment that evening. As a follow-up, we've talked about that as a whole administrative team, and then most recently, Drew, Josh, and I sat down, kind of recapped our notes from that work session and kind of recapped it and kind of put together information to share and kind of a process or next steps that we're thinking. I included a document, I believe, that kind of captures our notes. I'm gonna not read the whole thing, but kind of capture some highlights. I can answer some questions, and I've asked Josh just to kind of chime in on maybe some things that I left out, or he can help answer some questions.
Do we have that or
You
you're
do
just?
have this, correct?
It's attached. Yeah.
Oh, it's
It's
attached,
attached.
okay.
It's an attachment
Monica here?
to this item. Nope,
No,
not that one, but the one before.
oh, maybe.
I got it up on the screen too.
Okay, that'd be great. That's fine. And I don't need my
Oh,
glasses.
it's under admin report.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I jumped ahead.
Okay, perfect.
I can back up if you want.
No, we can flip back to focus on learning.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
that's fine.
sorry, I got ahead. of
No, you're
myself.
good.
Okay, so again, when we talk about areas of focus when it comes to instruction, assessment, things like that, talking about effective instructional practices, use of that instructional period, whether it's 45 minutes or 80 minutes, just how do we best utilize that period? Again, the standards within that class and those daily learning targets aligned to assessments, and then how we grade and report out on those. So this year, we did bring in Corwin Publishing, a company to basically provide professional learning, professional development for our high school staff around how to best utilize that instructional period. And I'm going to call it instructional period because it could be a 90-minute block, it could be a 40-minute block. Just how do we best utilize that period? Focus was on, that teacher-led lesson. It was on providing students that guided or independent practice. And it was also how do we then utilize that period if we're providing them guided practice or independent practice to give students feedback and then formally assess so that it can help drive tomorrow's lesson or tomorrow, or the rest of the week as far as making those decisions. So really, this framework that we worked on this year is a reinforcement of formative assessment as a tool for improving learning rather than just simply measuring it. So takeaway, jump in anytime. You can interrupt me.
The model, it's best known as gradual release of scaffold, so.
Yeah.
So,
Focus.
so essentially, that's what the work really was, is around that framework, so. That it incorporates those components, but really digging into the scaffolding strategies that a lot of teachers use. Some of the information that was provided during that time really was reinforcing to some teachers, and for others, just sort of also a reminder of, oh yeah, these are the tools we need to be putting in place in our classes. And so some of the work related to that has been ongoing, not just a one-time sit and get and okay, good luck, but Corwin coming back multiple times to provide support to teachers and having some virtual sessions as well to be able to engage teachers and really examine, okay, how are you using that time and how can we effectively utilize these practices? So that's kind of really part one for some of the work that we're doing this year.
Yeah. So a takeaway from that evening that we spent together in discussion, we see that concerns was limited value placed on homework, daily practice, projects, or other forms of formative assessment, where really all of the assessment was coming from just an into summative, a big summative. And so, historically, what we want to see is use of timely and specific feedback throughout that period. And we want to see more meaningful evidence used to measure proficiency towards the standard, and that could be homework, it could be practice, it could be daily projects, it could be group discussion that we're observing and listening to and things like that. So that's what we recognize, that's what we walked away with. And so as a result, we can see that we've relied heavily on summative rather than just gathering a body of evidence towards measuring student proficiency. One thing that we did start the year with, Josh and Drew worked with the high school staff just to get some baseline data on summative assessment. and how prepared students are for that first assessment. With the mindset that, they know, students know that, geez, if I bomb this first assessment, I can always reassess. And if I bomb that, a lot of times I can possibly reassess again. So we wanted to know, and we were pushing students, hey, be prepared first time around. You'll do yourself a big favor by not having to go through that cycle of 2 weeks later reassessing when you're already moved on to content within the course. So these are just a summary of findings. And we measured this as far as preparedness as on a 4-point scale if a student scored a 3 or above on that first attempt. And you can see, depending on the class, whether it's earth-based science or biology or whatever we're offering that first quarter, that it ranged between 82 and 92% of our science students scored a 3 or above on first attempt. And you can see just down the line, social studies was 91 to 99, with the exception, one course had a midterm and only 68% hit that 3 or above. Then you can see ELA, CTE, Spanish range from 79 to 95, except there was a Spanish 4 assessment. Only 36% of the class scored a 3 or above. So with those outliers out of the way, for the most part, we're 80% above on that.
We may need to do another data collection mid-year here to see where we were from second quarter and into this third quarter. This same data, the other piece that we want to collect is how many kids are actually reassessing. There were some changes that were made in some courses where they were limiting reassessment. And the teachers that I talked to, and they mentioned they're finding success by limiting those reassessment opportunities.
You always get extra chances.
Yeah, you only get so many chances, and I think one comment to me was you had in course you got so many chances, right? And by the end or close to the end, students had only used maybe 1 or 2 of those reassessment opportunities. So the staff that are implementing these things are seeing success in that and are feeling more comfortable about the change, I think. And so that's what we can capitalize on and leverage as we start to move forward, as we tighten down a little bit more. I think the other thing, just from that standpoint of formative versus summative, looking at some of the research and as we've been talking about this idea of 10-80-20 or 10-80-10, 10% should really be on summative assessment, 80% should be on formative assessment practices, and 10% should be on feedback loops for kids. I think with the unintended consequences of what we've done over the course of the last 15 years, all well-intentioned, however, the grading guidelines that have been implemented have created some unintentional consequences where kids are taking advantage of this reassessment, this unlimited reassessment. And so what has in turn, I think the 10% where it should be just summative has bloomed into probably 30%, 40%, maybe even larger than that in terms of a focus where we need to get back into balance in terms of this idea of formative assessment and thinking about it we really should be 80% of the time engaging in formative assessment practices where it's just a natural opportunity where kids are reperforming, getting feedback through feedback loops. So that's a piece that we're going to use to kind of help guide some of what we're doing in terms of our work. So.
Yeah. And what jumping on what Josh said is, you go down to that shifting the focus. Well, we've talked a lot about structures dictate behaviors. We put a structure in place that started to dictate behaviors as, well, listen, I got other stuff to do tonight. I really don't need to prepare for the test because I can give it a trial run and retake it if I need to again, or if I am fortunate, I can, without studying, make it through and not worry about it. So those are the structures that started to dictate behavior. So how do we shift, or how do we put in different structures to reshape behaviors? And that's kind of what we're talking about as far as we still want to value that whole slogan. If time is the variable, and we all know, just like physically, we grow at different rates. And if you go to the middle school, you can see that, you got 6-footers and you got 4'2" kids that they just haven't hit their growth spurt yet. Same thing with learning. We learn at different rates. So if time is the variable, then learning will be the constant, and we want the learning to be the constant. So we also have to evaluate and honor that kids are going to learn at different rates. That's why shifting to maybe, ongoing formative assessment and a portfolio of evidence will be important also, knowing that kids just, some pick it up really fast, some take reinforcement to learn it. So,
What's the staff's kind of feedback? Cause I think we talked about this, it puts a lot of pressure on them. I feel like it's added work, when they want kids to succeed. Are they excited about maybe some of this like limited reassessments and?
It's change. To some, it's scary. That's all they've known for the last 15 years. And so there's hesitancy because they don't know what the other looks like. They haven't experienced it yet, wouldn't you say? So others we've got some that are already moving forward with permission. And some of these things, like instant, we gave teachers at the beginning of the year, if you want to put some caps on reassessment, limit some of that stuff within your course, you have permission. And they jumped on it. Some of them, yeah. So it's also giving permission.
I think there's some probably, as we've talked about, just going back to what is the definition of, when we talk about standards-based grading, I found an article from Gusky from 2022, shared it with Davis, and
Is that the one you shared with me?
we kind of dove into that a little bit, and it really, what happens with the definition of standards-based grading over time, since its inception, it's really become convoluted. Nobody really knows what it means, and because we're throwing everything in the kitchen sink into this definition of standards-based grading. And Gusky would argue, I believe that, grading based on standards and targets is a good thing. It's all the other junk that came with it. And so that's what we're trying to address. And I know that's what the things that you've surfaced, it's all the other junk that we need to work on and take care of.
And so Davis and I had a pretty good conversation. I mean, a pretty lengthy conversation in my big challenge was like, you inherited this, right? This was not you didn't initiate this, but we need to own it now. You know what I mean? And so I really think this is part of that ownership and figuring out, all right, this is not what we expected it to be. It's probably not what's best for teachers or students in some ways, and so I think this is a step towards this administration owning what that means. And the part we all love is every standard is measured, right? So it's not like, oh, I got a 90, but on 15, or 10% of the test, you knew nothing. As opposed to, that's a different person than got, 9 out of 10 all the way across the board. They could be a major hole in their education that you don't see unless you're grading by the standard. So I think those are things to hold on to, obviously, which they're doing, doing a great job of. But I think this is, I commend you guys for looking into this and really, seeing what's going to be best for our students. And the other thing is, and you're right, we were burning our teachers out without clear expectations of what this is going to look like. So everyone kind of went their own ways, and some people were, numerous opportunities to reassess, and the teachers are just, what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep,
So can I ask a question? I guess what are since the fall, you guys allowed them to, reconsider how they're offering these reassessments. What other levers have they implemented since fall that will tell us whether this is on the right track when we do these assessments? Like, what other tools, I guess, are they using to change the classroom instruction? So are they allowed to grade homework now?
They can place value on it. They can place value on that.
That was one of the things. I mean, I've been here now 8 years, and and since I started here, trying to push back a little bit on the grading guidelines. I think back in 2011, 10, I think I had a conversation with Tim a couple of years ago about a lot of the pushback that I've gotten related to standards-based grading and the grading guidelines, which I could share with you, but I kind of want to put those to bed for a little bit. to be able to, the pushback that I got was, well, the board approved these grading guidelines and standards-based grading back in 2010. Well, having a good conversation with Tim, that really wasn't the case. There's no record of approval of standards-based grading and grading guidelines. They were just guidelines.
Informational.
And it was information.
Yeah, yeah.
And so,
This is what we're proposing to do. And we
Right.
said,
great.
give it a shot.
Yeah,
And so
Well,
trying
there wasn't a
to,
lot of districts doing it.
Correct.
We're kind of on the front end of
Yeah.
that.
and so trying to help them understand and trying to give permission back to them saying, we don't need to do this, but we need to talk about it. Like, what are the structures and the frameworks that we have in place for this, but I need your feedback and I don't want this to be a barrier. So since the beginning of the year, one of the first conversations really was about reassessment. Like, because it's a wild, wild west.
For sure.
You can reassess. We had folks who were all in and giving it a shot, you know, math team being math, some algorithms that they were using to create some, some parameters around reassessment, as well as grading homework or collecting homework and grading that homework to be able to put value to that.
Yep.
There has to be some accountability that needs to be put in place. I just experienced this a few weeks ago with my son. I came home and he was doing homework and I about fell on the floor. And he said, well, yeah, I got to do homework because it's great. Oh, so accountability is important.
For sure.
So it's really going back to kids need some accountability to move forward with, whatever that homework is. However, when we provide that homework, I mean, these are the pieces that we're talking about moving forward is how are we using feedback to support kids as they're doing homework or they're doing their practice? Because when kids didn't do homework, there's no feedback to give. It was just you did it or you didn't do it. Right. And so we're trying to crank the dial a little bit more with some thoughts and ideas for next year. And as Davis, Drew and I are putting together this framework, going back to kind of developing and designing what this framework looks like with professional development in mind, and going back to that high school team that I had been working with to gather some feedback and input. How can this play out? And so that it's not overwhelming, but we're doing some important work next year in terms of learning and implementation. So
What does it look like timeframe wise to get that kind of in place, that feedback, that trial, that information return, and then changes and
Well-
forward?
go ahead.
honestly, I think we have practices in place. I think in a lot of places we have those, just reinforcing that. But then going back to how we place value on those opportunities that those kids are completing homework. So what value are we placing on that? And honestly, I think going into next year, I think we can do it without too much issue. It's just getting everyone together and doing professional development together to develop consistency and a shared understanding of what that means and what that structure should really look like. The scaffolding piece was the first component, but we have to be way more intentional with that to move things forward.
Yeah, I think this year's professional development that the high school engaged in set us up for this work, because it really focused on how do we best utilize that instructional period. So, like with the gradual release, there's let's take a 45, 50-minute period, 10 to 15 minutes on a focus lesson where the teacher's teaching that skill. And then you can roll into whether it's collective group practice, whether it's independent practice or guided practice, where they're actually working on, and in that focus lesson, you can do let's do this problem together. Let's solve this. Now you do it. Now let me give you some feedback as I walk around the room, and give you some feedback on how you're doing. We can do some independent practice, kind of collect that as formative, use it. But, just setting it up the stage for the work that we want to do. And you can see on this, we talk about district direction. So the first bullet just kind of talks about, from what learning that took place this year, they've been using their CLT time to discuss some of that learning and even share some of their experiences as they've tried it. Like Josh said, we've got a couple teachers, one in particular that has really shifted from basically what used to be at the board for the entire block is now at the board for a short period of time and then putting students on the board so that she can scan the room as they're doing problems and provide feedback or get a sense, okay, as I'm looking at the board and everybody's problem, we've got it, let's move on. And so she's real time specific feedback to these students. And it's by her piloting this or moving forward to do this and sharing it with her team, she's building enthusiasm. And that's one of the ways that we hope to just, grow at grassroots, put some guidelines in there, give permissions in there, but really have teachers lead part of this movement. And so that's what's taking place right now. One thing Josh had mentioned that what we want to do is work with this group to really define and all have the same common definition of formative assessment, standards-based, summative, have common definitions so we're all working off the same definition and that same vision on what it should look like, sound like, feel like, and that experience. And so from now until the end of the year, that's one of the things that we'll be doing is just defining this so that when we move forward, we've all got the same definition. February, the PD day that we just had, we actually put 612 teachers together by departments, and they worked vertically on going back through their standards and identifying those by grade level and spans so that we're making sure that, hey, we're all on the same page. We've got that sequence going from grade 6 to 12 in some of those courses. So that's going to be key work for standards-based grading to, have clearly defined targets. We, like Josh had said, we're opening up permissions. We've got great teachers and they want to do a good job and they want to follow directions. And so sometimes we got to step back and say, we want them to do it. Oh, wait, you have permission to do that. And sometimes they just need to hear that. And so giving permissions to tighten up the summative assessment practices or opportunities and placing a value on some homework, giving teachers a better opportunity to provide that specific and timely feedback that's needed. So just opening up some permissions. And then, like I said, we're going to begin district-wide conversations about reporting practices. And then again, clear definitions between formative and summative and, best use and weighting those. Anything to add to that direction, Josh?
I'm thrilled about
Yeah.
the direction this is going, and I want to move to thinking about it to actually doing and making consistent. I actually want to ask Piper, cue you up for a conversation. As you're hearing this, or you're maybe experiencing it in some classrooms that you're taking, what's your feedback?
I think I normally don't reassess that much, but in my chemistry class, she kind of opened that up to us. And I think it makes people work harder in class time. And then they use them wisely. So they get a 3.5, they're not gonna reassess that because they know that's a good score. I also think it's homework being graded is good because that also makes accountability come into the factor of that. But I think it's great. Because I feel like you could pass a class but still get 3s on every single test just because you reassess every single one. So I think it's great.
What about some of the college courses you guys are dipping into? You don't get all the reassessment opportunities, do you?
No, so I had comp and then I had my Spanish classes, so that kind of interested me into not or kind of got me into the habit of not reassessing. And I thought that was good being study over. So
What kind of behaviors do you think you've changed as a result of not having that ability to reassess in some classes?
just doing more homework, asking questions on the homework, collaborating with other students. So yeah.
About zero block, it seems like a lot more kids when they are
Yeah.
struggling, they're going in at zero blocks, so.
Yeah, zero block's a good resource for that too.
And that was a structural change this year, just changing the zero, purpose of zero block. Isn't that the end of right? That's what.
It's at the
Right,
beginning of the,
More, yeah.
But then there's open study.
Open, yeah.
Is at Spartan time, so like some people have to report to Spartan time
Right.
if they're on like.
There's some different, there's
Requested.
different, yeah, you're requested by one, and the other is more.
just like open office hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have one that's just open office hours. We're gonna be here. If you need help, just come on in. I'm here in my office. And then the other part of the day, we have, you need to come and see me at this time. We're gonna do some reteaching.
So I think we'll see some evidence of that come fall when we expand this across the board, that you're going to have more students that are electing to come. And
Yeah.
visit those open office hours. They're gonna care more about their learning, they're gonna care more about ensuring that they're getting the key concepts that they need to learn in order to progress through the class.
Well, yeah, we're part of our PD, we're really focused next year on feedback and types of feedback. And I put that on there for you, Cassie, but there's some
I did.
Hattie's
I saw
work
I saw
that a
the
new,
exercise and stuff. That's
yeah. There, you know, when you talk about effect size on student achievement, Hattie has all these different variables. And a variable that always is at the very, very top as far as most influential on achievement is feedback. The right type of feedback. Just praise or just vague feedback actually is detrimental. But very timely, specific, descriptive feedback has a huge effect size. And that's what we're gonna work on too, which will be a big part of formative assessment and that, yeah.
Well, I think oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
No.
To see, maybe this translating or not translating to K through 5. In that, I remember when my youngest was first coming into kindergarten, I think that was around the transition where they really went to everything, no homework after school, but read with your kid for 20 minutes. And so obviously the younger grades still are not in a position where they're doing outside of class homework. But just off the top of your head, you know, do you see this idea, maybe more so of the feedback loop and its value versus necessarily grading homework at the younger grades? But how do you see that maybe coming into the world or ages?
I not necessarily.
Because we don't necessarily do the reassessment piece that makes.
I mean, it's just, you know, we have interventionists and we have blocks built into the day for, you know, we've got a reading block and then we have an intervention block and things like that. And we really spiral that through the day. I still think the best practice for like a K3 student is read. Just, you know, 10, 15 minutes a night, read.
So it sounds like they're getting that.
They're
feedback
getting,
during
yeah,
the-
and a lot of times, you know, we can take great lessons from elementary classrooms and, you know, part of this. Fisher's, you know, framework with gradual release. I mean, that just comes naturally in an elementary classroom. And, you know, in that workshop where they'll do a focus lesson in writing. 15 minutes and then the next half hour, they're actually conferring with students as they're writing. From conferring with students, they're gathering formative assessment on kind of where that student's at, and they're providing that student very specific, timely feedback, kind of their own personalized instruction. We see that, and and that goes all the way up through the middle school ELA program, and you can see how well we achieve. So it's just kind of maybe transferring some of those further up into the secondary.
I think communication's been really good. I've got youngest is in kindergarten. And she's struggling with a few things and, you know, they're constantly looping back around like, hey, we reassessed this, did this, you know, spend time reading, here's what we're working on, breaking off into a subgroup to focus on, you know what I mean? So I'm impressed with the, just the communication part of it.
Well,
And it's that you're not waiting till the parent teacher conferences, you're getting it, hey, we assessed yesterday, here's what we're noticing.
and that teacher is communicating with 20 families. Whereas you get a high school teacher, they may have 100 students throughout the
Yeah.
day, so.
And just
Yeah.
on a side here, we always talk about these feedback loops and stuff with our ELA stuff. Are they getting their feedback loops in math? Are they getting their feedback loops in science at those lower levels? You know, kind of Lucy Cocking stuff forces that.
Yeah,
But like, how are we getting those out of math and science? Are they still, are they, because it's not, you don't really have that workshop model so much, or do we?
we
Or
do,
okay.
and that's what we're moving towards.
Okay.
That's what we're moving towards, yeah,
Yeah.
is that model in the other.
Like in math, definitely, I mean, through the workshop models, I mean, it's a similar setup, there's, you know, small group opportunity
Okay.
for instruction, there's intervention opportunities, right? You know, obviously, it's like science or the other areas, because it's limited in terms of those opportunities, but again, I agree with Davis, it's a little more natural setting for, because you're with those kids all day long, and you're constantly evaluating and formatively assessing where they are, and then you're jumping in and giving them feedback and giving them more direction because, well, they need it, especially at that developmental level.
I mean, when we say, what do we want it to look like, feel like, sound like? You know, we talked about actually, there's a high school math teacher that's really excited and trying some of this new stuff to where she is, you know, providing direct instruction, and then putting kids on the board, or the use of a desktop whiteboard that they can hold up. And, you know, with that, she can quickly determine who's got it, who doesn't. And what we want to move to is, okay, I see that, 4 of you, I'm gonna come over to a table with you and I'm gonna sit down and reteach, and you're gonna show me that now you've got it after a little bit of more reteaching, while the rest of you, I want you to move on to these 2 problems. And so that's the model we want to get to, kind of that workshop model where it's not, I'm teaching whole class for the whole period, but through quick formative assessment, I can identify who's got it, who doesn't, and I can either work individually or small group throughout that period as I'm constantly reassessing how they're grasping it.
So I've got 3 things. We'll start at the lower level.
And Josh will answer them.
I think we need to stick a pin in the lower elementary one. I think there's a lot more questions that I've got that we need to talk about, which is because it's a completely different beast than 6 through 12.
Yep, it is.
You know, they're learning how to learn. I've got concerns over, are we doing the right things? Are we making sure that they're learning everything that we're, you know, they've got to learn how to learn, and that includes getting the brain to do a lot of different things. And are we meeting the needs of, you know, the middle of the class, the low end of the class, the high end of the class? Where are we at in that process? I think those are concerns that I think, you know, flow into that instructional question. And so I'd encourage us to revisit that in a time period where we've got more time to do it, and you guys have had a chance to think a little bit more through that. Moving towards the middle school level, I hear this conversation about homework, and I hear this, you know, middle school is if I remember correctly, Dan, as we were starting this process, was the pain in the process, because we had all these parents are going, but my kids got a 95 for their grade, but it says that they've learned none of the material, because we had that discontinuity. And when I hear about homework, I want to hear more about how that homework is connected to standards, rather than just we want them to be doing stuff. Because if, you know, because one of the whole ideas was to avoid this accumulation of points, which is, I've got enough points and I don't need to learn anything more, because I've got enough points that no matter, I could get 0 points the rest of the semester and I get a C, and I'm eligible for football if I have a C, so I don't have to worry about the rest of the semester. And so I'd like to know a little bit more about how you guys are managing those interactions there. And to build off of Cassie's comment about check-in interaction, I'd love to know more about what that data shows as we move forward, because having taught college classes, college kids aren't willing to come in and visit professors when there are questions. They'll sit there, and that they would rather get a worse grade than actually go talk to somebody about what they don't understand. And so it would be interesting to see, because what I worry about is that, you know, maybe we get some of our students who are going to make use of that. And if we talk about, you know, 21st century skills and all this other fun stuff, how are we teaching them that, yes, you have to make use of these resources? And yes, it may not be fun to go talk to an adult about things you don't understand and admit you don't understand it. But the output of that is something that's positive and you learn more and. Yeah, and then so I think I'd like to get some more data on that as we go through that to make sure that what we're not seeing is just our highest achievers are making use of that time and you know, that we're also getting those others. And if we're not getting them, how do we facilitate that? Those are my three things.
So I mean, I think I've enjoyed this. This is robust conversation. I mean, you guys are hitting the points that we are concerned about. I'm pleased with that. Now, obviously, we have more information that we want. Can we just do this at the next board meeting, more like K through 6? Is that which?
K through 5, yeah.
K through 5, K through, yeah, and just,
You need more than.
yeah, do you need 2 months?
Yeah, and just
We
more,
need to document our question.
yeah, thank you. That's, yeah,
Right.
So that
exactly
we
what
can
it
make
is.
sure
Yes,
that we
thank you.
Guide you with the right information we would like you to present.
Sure.
That's what I'm looking for. Yeah.
I'll send my questions to the strategic planning committee.
Okay.
Sure.
That's fine. Anything else? No.
Jump back to focus.
Yeah, we'll go back to focus on learning.
Okay, so principals are all engaged in parent-teacher conferences tonight. I asked them to just based upon building goals, end of the year building goals, just provide some data for some mid-year, just kind of a mid-year update. So I'll kind of just quickly walk you through these slides. Slide, yep, standard 4. See if I have that. Standard 4, curriculum, instruction, and assessment. This is from my goals at the board, and the focus is continue the fiscal year 25 instructional progress that we made through a continuous improvement process that adapts to state changes and evolving student needs. So this is data, just to see, you know, still making that progress at the gains that we made last spring at the end of the year. Midway through, you can see this data represents benchmark reading assessment. So this measures fluency and comprehension and gives a combined score. There are benchmarks throughout the year. It's a moving target. As the year progresses, so the target rises to keep pace.
So the assessment rises as they go
yeah.
farther in
Yes,
their education.
yes.
Okay.
It's not just one set standard, but as the year progresses, so does the target.
That's not true for math,
Correct. For
which
this,
is why we see what we see.
yes, for this test it is. Beginning of the year, you know, for instance, we want, you know, if kids enter kindergarten at a level A or B, well, the target is D, so it constantly moves throughout the year, so that at the end of the year, we want all kids at level D in kindergarten so that they start first grade there. So you can see this is kindergarten first and second. There are 4 levels. Blue is above, green is at, yellow is that bubble just approaching close to, red is below. Yellow is approaching, red is below. So just overall, this is the first time we don't give this to kindergarten kids in the fall. We have other assessments, coding, decoding, and all that stuff. Once we get to the winter, now we're ready to give them a fluency and comprehension assessment. So 79% of the kids are right on target, according to benchmark assessment. 85% of first grade and 87% of second grade. The whole building combined is at 76%. The next set of data is the FAST data. And Cassie knows the FAST data is state mandated. It's 3 times a year, and it's a screener. So it's designed to over identify kids. Identify more than what really are, so that you don't miss anybody. So in FAST, I want you to notice it's an over identifier, but if you look at kindergarten, every single student met grade level on FAST except for 2.
Do we not deliver it in the fall fast?
We do. This is update winter.
This is the update.
This is the most recent, the window, the February window. We have a fall window, we have a winter window, and we have a end of the year window. This is our February window. Now, so we've got, and we're really excited about kindergarten. Because every single kid is met the FAST standard. Except for two kids. One, the one that is persistently at risk, just moved in 3.5 weeks ago. And we're making progress with them, but not there yet. And then who was the other child? Do you remember who the other child was? We have faces on the data, but 2 out of the entire kindergarten class. That's it. So that's incredible. First grade, you can see we're sitting at 70. And second grade at
It'd
70.
be good to see what it was in the fall and like.
You know, what I mean?
So
progress
we're
we
at
get that.
70, was it at
Yeah.
65?
Yeah, I can share that with you. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
How do we account for students, or how are students with IEPs?
They're in here. They gotta take it.
So there's,
Everybody.
yeah,
It's
I just
everybody.
wasn't,
Yeah. They're built in this.
There, yeah, that's the entire grade. Now, if you fall out, if you don't hit the green, then we're required to progress monitor that child and report out weekly, weekly. Every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, we progress monitor that kid. But every child that falls out on this fast, we have in an intervention group. So we're making gains. Yeah. If you look at the whole elementary combined on fast, we've got 87% of our kids meeting the fast benchmark. Which is
82 or
pretty,
87.
what's that?
I'm trying to understand the red, yellow, green code. Is it 82%? 87%.
Oh, I'm sorry, 82. You're right. Yeah.
I was.
I could read- yeah,
The
I-
coding change, the coding for, the color coding is different between the first test and the second test. So it was throwing me for a loop when I was reading through it. Yellow, red, and green mean different things in that first block of data versus the other one. So I was just trying to make sure I understood what we're doing.
Yeah. So those are just 2 data points that we're sharing. We've got more data points, but I, told the principals, give me a few data points that we can update the board with. The next slide, and each principal kind of has their own way of tabling things. But this is, again, benchmark, beginning of the year benchmark for the intermediate school. And they've got BOYs beginning of the year for 3rd grade. So when they arrived in September, August, September in 3rd grade, and then right below that is December 3rd grade. So if we want to look at those kids that are below, we had 29% arrive, we're down to 22%.
Yeah.
In 4th grade, we had 27% below when they arrived, we're down to 21%. In 5th grade, 16% down to 12%.
I thought we only tested the boys. When I
Yeah.
first read this,
Boy, at the beginning of the year.
it's like, well, what about the girls?
Yeah,
You think the benchmark?
this is the benchmark.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. I'm like, why are you only testing the boys?
This is the benchmark. So
Took me a few
the teachers were pleased. We're seeing progress there as we go through the year. Now, the next few slides are
We don't
map.
test grade 3 and fast?
We do. I did Mel didn't include that data.
They didn't give that.
Yeah,
But yes, we do.
yeah, that's a requirement. Standard, let's see, the next slide is the map and it's literacy. If you look at that bottom bar, it's achievement in the fall, and then to the right, achievement in the winter. You can see the red and the orange, which are below the 41st%. We went from 23 to 20. So we're dropping that. We gained more in both the green and the blue, the 2 top categories.
And this is based off spring norms? Josh? if I recall.
And for the.
So, for example, if we're looking at the growth and achievement on math,
Mhm.
the fall, and then again in the
Winter.
winter, that 65% are at or above grade level based off of spring performance levels, right? Or is it based on,
fall?
are they seasonal?
Ask your
Right,
question.
that's a good question.
So grade level, so the normative data that's based off of spring,
Okay,
we would be quite low if that's what we are comparing to.
from last spring,
No,
No,
sorry,
current spring.
This coming
Current
spring,
spring.
end of the year, by the end of the year,
right?
that 65 should be a lot higher because.
Right.
Yeah.
This
We're
doesn't,
close,
this
yeah.
doesn't say that
This is-
you're 65% on track,
They're in the 65th percentile.
correct?
Right.
So
So they're
that,
above
that's why
average,
we
we're
have to
above
make sure
average,
that we're
but-
looking at this data with the right lens.
Yeah, and so the next slide is math.
Because what you're saying is end of year.
Correct,
Right.
yes, thank you.
Next slide is math, and it's pretty equivalent to what you're seeing in literacy. But then the next two slides, you can see we've got the quadrants. And you know, what we're targeting, what's nice about MAP is we're really looking too at individual growth. And are we getting growth from every student? And you can see on the slide Josh has up for literacy, we have those three dots represent third, fourth, and fifth, and then that square is the school as a whole. And we fall into high achievement and high growth in all three grade levels. In literacy, and we fall in those same quadrants. It's a little bit lower in math, but we still fall within that high achievement, high growth quadrant in math. You can see it's a little closer to the middle there, but we still fall into that high achievement, high growth.
Yeah, I was gonna say, walk us through the middle school, because
Oh,
that's a little,
I wanted to say on math,
Okay,
Understand math.
math, yeah, I'm just. At least as we look at the interview, it looks like, reading looks good. The math, as I'm looking at the kind of the achievement where. That lower bar seems fairly stagnant, as you look across here. I don't see the same
Yeah.
increases in numbers on the right-hand side that I saw on the.
we've been having a lot of discussion on math. We're looking at our current curriculum and exploring the looks of some other curriculum right now. We have a heavy emphasis on
Yeah.
conceptual.
About the three, there's
Pass.
three Legos. They talk about conceptual, application, and procedural. Our current curriculum, which is awesome because it really pushes kids' thinking, but it's heavily leaned towards conceptual. And so we're trying to get balance back to the application and procedures. So we're in the process right now, K-5, kind of our leadership team with the principals and coaches. We're just kind of narrowing the focus, identifying what the criteria is that we want to identify related to a curricular resource that's going to take us further than where we are right now. They've made some gains, they've done a lot of work, but it's been a lot of hard work and a lot of supplementing of things that we find are missing, like geometry is always a big one, and fractions. And so we're trying to identify, never going to find a resource that has everything in it, but we're trying to identify something that's going to give us a little more balance on those three things to help push us forward, in addition to intervention pieces to support
like,
it.
evidence-based.
We know that our curriculum that really is heavy on conceptual, that our good math students do well. The students that struggle need more procedural. And so that's one of the things that we're looking at. How is there some resources that will provide more procedural so that we can really reinforce and build a better foundation for these students to do more conceptual work?
We've identified 4 resources that are all all green on ed reports.
Oh, yeah,
So we're looking at those.
curious what you're choosing. take that off.
Okay.
Yeah, because that would be my next question is, it's great, data is great, I love that you're going through this. What are we doing with it?
Yeah.
What are we finding?
Oh, yeah.
Where are the gaps?
Yeah, we've had a lot of conversation about the math piece, like we're
That's
noticing,
great.
yeah, there's definite big gaps. And it's not that we. Again, the core resource that we're using, New Perspectives, is really awesome in terms of conceptual and kids working, like, I think it hit a lot of the standards for mathematical practice pieces, but it's missing some of those real other key foundational components for kids, so. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mike put his in a little different category. On
You
the,
might want to check the data on this one, that doesn't seem. That we only have,
I think he lumped in below 35.
Yeah.
Instead of breaking out that. And then that span, which would be,
and he only does math. And he only uses the math test for math, I understand, so.
I think they do a little bit with literacy. I think they do a little bit. I don't think they do everyone with literacy. They do, I think, everyone with math.
so as far as at or above, it's looking at 91%. He breaks 6th, 7th, and 8th down. You can see their percentages.
It's all useful. I think the one thing for public consumption and even potentially for the board consumption is. I know every principal's got their own, but I think translating it into something that's easier for us to.
A common
quickly move
template,
it, yeah,
yeah.
a common language that we
Yeah.
can more easily move through.
Yeah, and we can do that. We can do that. I just asked them to give me data points for now, but we can move to a common template.
Well, and
Yeah.
it's, I mean, we asked for this, so part of this is our own problem with not having them there here to explain their own information.
Yeah.
You know, what I mean, we, you know, so that falls on us a little bit too, but,
And just knowing that the math assessment that we're doing across the board is predictive to. What
Yep.
we ultimately get on a report card, we should also take in. That extra data points that you get when you get this assessment, like what is the predictability of proficiency on the summative assessment, on the ISAP assessment at the
Yeah.
end? Because there is linking studies that.
I know Mel has done, they've done a lot with that stuff and some goal setting with it too, but. Yeah, trying to look at that correlation between.
Student goal setting.
Especially when we're,
Yeah.
looking at, because they'll be looking at those winter score, and then once we get back the ISAS data. Whatever that's gonna happen this year.
Mike put down grades on Q1 to Q2 as far as failure rates.
Sure.
And then Drew mainly worked on ICAP stuff, so. We've got 101 job shadows that have been completed or applied for. This time last year, we were at 112. He believes, and his ICAP team believe that the reason why we're not growing that is students just don't want to miss class. And so they're going to work on ways around or opportunities for students to do job shadows without necessarily missing class.
I really would be curious. And that could be wrong, but in order to do a job shadow, you have to go through the workplace learning connection.
No, not necessarily, but like for instance,
People know that.
well, so for instance, since I'm well aware of this, I set one up for my daughter and then kind of reported to workplace learning, and they then followed up and added that to the,
Proactively,
yes.
after she completed the
So,
job shadowing.
Maybe, yes,
You
added
set
that
it up
too.
outside the system
I,
and then you put it in the system.
yes, but they also are very astute to listen. If there's something that's not on this list, let us know and we'll go find something in that area, or if you know, if you have a lead for us, we'll contact them for you. There was 2 years ago, I put out an email to all district families. And I talked about workplace learning, and if you yourself own a business or workplace, could host a job shadow or know of somebody, please reply. And we added 8 to 12 from that through workplace learning. So it's not set in stone. They have what they have due to contacts and experiences. But if we want to add, they're all about it. They're all about it. I mean, we talked about adding vents, diesel mechanic down, so if there are areas that we want to add, they're on it and they'll set it up.
And I think one of the challenges is just location. I think it's less, I don't know how much it's missing class. There continue to be record numbers out of the Iowa City area that are looking for job shadows. And so, obviously there's more opportunities to job shadow there because there's more businesses that are there. So I think it is a combination of things, but I think it's probably that we don't have a lot of opportunities right around here. But we've got construction projects on. We could have I hate to be this person, we're paying them to do our construction. We can tell them we want them to provide job shadow opportunities for people that are interested in those things.
And the contractors we have on site, I think would be great, more than welcome.
Yeah, and I guess that we need to look at opportunities because I think it is it's hard to take a day and go down, because
good point.
if you're driving up Cedar Rapids to Iowa City, you're relying on a parent to get you there. You've got to get it figured out, and and that's easier for some folks than others. I think we need to continue to look at opportunities to grow that.
Yeah, and that might be a big reason. Kids, it's more of a commitment, and they will miss class because they got to drive to Cedar Rapids or Iowa City for a lot of them.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, no,
Yeah.
as far as the time factor.
Yeah.
So
But the flip side is we could also, could we do things? We're off on President's Day. A lot of businesses were open. Could we pay associates to van pull people to job shadows on days when we're closed? When we're closed from a standpoint of students, we've got a number of those days throughout the year. Can we think creatively about how to do that?
Yeah, the good news is I think there is a committee.
Yeah.
That has been established this year, and it would be a great use for the community to brainstorm about.
yeah,
And that's on Drew's radar. They see that as a barrier and they want to,
well, we talked about there's extra days in the second semester. Why can't you have a job shadow day? You know what I mean? Where
And they
can actually build in there's no classes that
That's
day.
one of the things,
Yeah.
when we talked about the J term, that was one thing we talked about. It's like, it could not just.
Right. So those are all great things. In the interest of time, anything else you want to focus on, Davis, as we move through this stuff?
Yeah,
or-
just real quickly, we had 23 kids we had 23 industry recognized credentials earned by 14 kids. This year, we have 11 students that have earned 27. I'll say this, we've got,
Did they resolve whatever was going on? I talked. to
not
you.
yet.
Okay.
No, it's all about money. It's all about money right now.
I have to follow up.
Good. Last year, let's see, we've got 24 students enrolled in academies this year. And the most popular academies, patient care, advanced manufacturing and welding, business and liberal arts. Those are the academies. We also have 58 other students who combined have taken 95 classes this past semester. So that's all I got.
Okay, any other questions before we move on? All right, board committee updates, strategic plan. Well, this is probably an hour of strategic plan. And there'll be more that will come out of this. Capital projects.
So as you may be aware, for the last 20 months or so, we've been working on the 2080 agreement with the city since June of 2024. We have a draft that we provided that we'd like feedback on. There's some give and take in there. The old version was out of date and was not being implemented in the way that was there. There's a couple things in the version we have, there's a couple things that as I read through, it's like, there's a spot there where it talks about the board and the commission, which no longer exist in the governance structure. And we'll have to swap that out. Candy got back to you, as I was driving up, so I actually haven't read the email. But from what I saw on my watch as I was walking in, it looks like she's okay with the suggestions I made, so.
I was gonna take you back to just basically.
Yeah, and so I think the question is, we've got feedback on our side and on their side before we can move forward with it. I think the big things would be the concession stuff seems to be off the table and fine at this point in time. They want to maintain control and maintenance of the multi-purpose field. And basically, we've got it till 5:15. They've got it after 5:30 during the spring and the fall, except for 2 days a week in the spring when we can use it till we can use it for games till later. The one thing that they've asked us to give up is, you know, we had a trump card in there when we reached this agreement, which was that with 48 hours notice, we could claim the field until 6:30 PM anytime we needed it. They've asked that we remove that. We had some back and forth on it, and the current language basically says if there's a conflict in terms of need, that the activities director and the rec director for the city would work it out. You know, the question is the extent to which that is, you know, yeah, obviously our concerns are, you know, as we focus on the school, it's like we want to make sure that our needs are met. You know, that was kind of always our back pocket is like, well, if we can't come to a resolution, we know we're at least protected. You know, right now, I think it would be on trust, right? Because what happens if the city says we need it and we say, okay, you know, for whatever reason, there's a water pipe burst and then we can't use the field up there and they've got games and we need to move a soccer game down there. You know, if we can't come to a resolution on it, right now, there's not a path, there's not a clean path. Under the old arrangement, we'd say we're claiming it till 6:30 and that's our right. Right now, it just says we'll work it out. And as long as we've got a good working relationship, that should be okay.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, I think it's based on trust. We got two really good individuals between Casey and our parks and rec department. They're doing a good job of communicating. So between schedules and all that, they're very aware.
Yeah.
But again, to your point, this thing might have to be revised if you got certain individuals that aren't in the situation and the communication breaks down. But for now, I thought it just the way that they're communicating.
Yeah, I think, and again, it goes back to certain things, it's like from a communication standpoint, it hasn't always been great, right? They put that sidewalk in without consulting us at all, even though they were required to. And so, you know, I think there are, you know, we have concerns about the way things have happened in the past. The question is, as we look to the future, are we adequately protected to make sure that we protect the best interests of the students and our patrons in the school district? You know, I think we've written something that I think with the people with Casey and Brody will work fine. If Casey or Brody are no longer the people there, what does that look like in 5 years? And if those relationships are still the same way. I think the one question that pops up though is, you know, that I thought about afterwards, and I think it's a question we probably. It's not clear, you know, right now, we had the trump card with the 48 hours notice. And so we basically were protected. Do we need different language in there that basically says if we decide that this is either not in the city's best interest or the school's best interest to continue the shared usage of that space, that it reverts, you know, with appropriate notice, it reverts, you know, the school resumes operational control and all the costs associated with that. If we decide to exit, do we want something that's more explicit, that's explicitly in there that says this is what'll happen, rather than, because right now we have to go back and deal with another 28E update. And, you know, I don't know that I have another 20 months of my life to get to a 28E update again.
This would just be my 30,000 foot view. Trust. I don't have a lot.
Yeah.
To be, I mean, just being honest, I trust the two individuals here, but if that communication breaks down, what's the next step?
Yeah.
And that's all I would ask for, is that those two people can't figure it out, what's the next step?
Yeah.
And so, not that I want to go back and do all this stuff, but I can't think about today. I gotta think about somebody who's sitting in these seats 10 years from now, saying, well, why can't we use this field for our streets? And so that's just my thoughts, and you guys are doing a great job. This is thankless work, and I appreciate it. You okay if we move on to financial services?
I'm just gonna see if Cassie or Megan had any thoughts before we, because I know.
I would agree with what Dan said. That was the first thought of my mind was. Certainly, if there is a risk and we feel like the risk is probably will occur and will occur, this is probably something we need to address.
Yeah, I think we need your contingencies. Okay.
We'll go back to the city and work through it, because I think we can deal with it with a couple more sentences we can work in there, and I think. You know, I think it's good for both the city and the school, and I just think it's.
Yeah.
You know, at a certain level, you know, as we were going through this, Dan, or between Davis and Adam and I said, well, as long as we got the 48 hours in there, it's like. Whatever else in there, we're always protected. Now we've lost that protection to meet our needs, and now I think it makes us a little bit more nervous. And again, I agree that if Casey and Brody are the ones deciding it, I don't think we'll have an issue. But again, what happens if we're down the road and you've got two different bodies in there? And
But I think that's why we have, instead of waiting 10 years or 5 years, this is.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, whatever it looks like, I think it's our job as board members to protect school district at all costs. I mean, that's what we got hired to do with. And so, whatever you guys trust you. So, okay, next, financial services, anything? We're gonna talk about,
Yeah.
there's more come over.
yeah, we're talking about, governance.
I wanna say something
Oh.
about governance just because I have to leave.
Yeah.
Before we get to the policy. I know Megan and I met, we've been working with Natalie. There is a lot of policies that are down below. A lot of them needed to be updated. A lot of the policies we didn't have on the books, we needed to have on the books. And our approach to governance is really thinking through, does this need to be a policy or does it need to be in a handbook in which we have more flexibility to be able to adjust as needed? And so by and large, most of what ISB is wanting or suggesting are revisions are what we have accepted. So take a look. I know this is just the first reading that we'll have today.
There's a few little typo things I have on my phone. I'll just send to you, just like, there was like a to be, I know. But just, it's, yeah, I know. I blame Natalie. No, just a few things, and just like, there was one thing, you have to hang the United States and the Iowa flag was one of the policies. We hang the Iowa flag all the time.
We
do.
We're doing, okay,
Yeah.
here, is that, or is it out, is it in the front of the high school, or is it just
For the
the?
high school, for the middle school, for the sis.
Okay, all I remember in my brain is just the.
I think when they're half staffed, oftentimes.
Maybe
the Iowa
that's why,
flag is-
maybe that's the only
Iowa-
one that catches my
I think the
attention.
Iowa flag is generally not
Okay.
formed, but we do
There
half
was,
staff.
I mean, there was some we talked about, there's a lot of language in there about the curriculum framework.
Right.
And presenting and so we would love to make sure that that's part of our curriculum framework, what's in the curriculum framework, the frequency, those kinds of.
Sure.
Let's make sure we surface that outside of, the policy.
Yeah.
And then, the AI, there's additional internet use and AI use in there. We just need to make sure that outside of the policy, our kids and our educators are well informed about the uses of AI, how it's intended to be used, what you should use about it, protecting data as it, make sure we're not putting person identifiable PII data into certain systems, and probably not in the policy until Iowa dictates that we have to, but let's make sure that it's in the handbook and it's written in a way that's really providing that information for kids and educators.
I appreciate the work pointing to say, we talked about this last year, and there's some policies, I think, that when we shifted from the one system to the next, they didn't make the transition. And so there's policies that it's like, well, we don't have a policy on the flag. I'm like, I swear we have a policy on it, because I read it at one point in time. It's like on the electronic signatures. I know there was an electronic signatures policy because Pat and I talked about it.
Yeah.
And And
Kudos to Natalie, she's done a great job
Yeah.
to help us navigate.
This-
that
we
section.
just
That's what I
maybe one last year. It was like
Filling your cup with
this year,
tears.
Yeah. So I apologize, I have to leave for
Yep,
another
okay,
engagement.
you bet.
Thank you for your time.
So thank you, thanks, that's a lot of policies, 300 and 600 series needs a lot, so I appreciate it. Student board member, now you're on your own. You have to speak all on your own, Piper. We just kind of wanted to know briefly, cell phone policy at the high school. Perfect, all right, next, how's it working?
I think. I appreciate like having phones at lunch, cause I think it allows like, especially me if I mess up schedules or like I'm thinking of our mom or whatever, it's easy, it's good time for me to call my mom or text one of my siblings. And I also think without phones in like school and extracurricular, or wait, not extra, like, what is that word? During like class time.
Yep.
I think it's more collaboration, more social, like. What is that, involvement and interactions, like people playing cards, kind of just makes that more face-to-face communication aspect.
Well, I think that was the goal for us was some of that and I appreciate you saying it, you know, you got put on the spot because Parker's not here.
How good are you at euchre?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Euchre, but it's more like, I was asking to play euchre like 2 years ago, now everybody knows, so.
Yeah, that's right, you're the one.
I had a phone call, 2 weeks ago. Somebody in a big district, Denver school district, and anyway. They're trying to implement a policy and kind of told me exactly what we did, and I think they were surprised on the noon thing, you know, instead of being a hard stance, but I think it made sense. I think that's something that they might take away as well. Just, oh yeah, that makes sense if you've got other stuff going on, you just need a quick check or.
Yeah.
But how has it been with our kids sneaking it in and giving a peek in the hallways or?
No, I don't think that's worth it anyway, because. If people do that, it's just, I don't see anybody do that, so I don't.
I know my daughter had her phone taken away, and she was like, it wasn't a big deal. She didn't know where her class was or the timing on the schedule, so popped it up. And then the teacher said, hey, you gotta take that in, so, but I was glad, I'm like, hey, they're
Yeah,
in
it's
fixing
got
that, and you
yep.
popped it open and looked at your phone, after the bell rang, so.
And if maybe the pressure valve is released, knowing there is a set time.
Right.
You can have it for a chunk of your day, then maybe the temptation is less intense.
Well, and it's probably the real work world, right? I know at our office, you can't have your phone during, you know, clinic hours, but at lunch, everybody's on their phone, so probably similar to what you're gonna have in the working thing.
It's fine.
All right, oh, go ahead, Tim.
I was gonna say, is
Sorry.
there anything else you want to tell us?
Parker's Spartan Life is going good through FBLA, he put that on there.
Okay,
So they're gonna open up signups soon, so I think that's like the. Is it big brothers, big sisters kind of. Thing through FBLA, so that's. Good,
Will that be at the middle school?
I think it is.
Okay.
I don't know much about that, that's more of his. Thing, yes, so I can't really speak too much on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't, if you feel like I'm rushing you, it's because my daughter's birthday is today, so. Consent agenda. Need to pull anything
Move to
out or?
approve.
Motion by Brown, second by Alaska. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 4-0. Action items. First one, North Risk Partners as district benefit. In the very Cliff Notes version. If somebody want to go just kind of the process, so like the public might not know.
We put out 8. We put out RFPs and we received 8 back. We kind of put all the information into a table and we looked at certain criteria, including fees. And there were several criteria we looked at and
Yeah, when we looked at it, Northwest Partners, you know, kind of, when it looked at pricing and all the other benefits and everything, when you compare, really, we're kind of at the top, along with kind of just the Have we had any issues? Have we had?
Right.
And just nothing we could really take away from it. I think it's great to do an RFP just to see where we at. Are we getting great stuff? Are people happy? Pricing's good. Megan, anything you want to add on that?
No, I thought it was really valuable exercise to go through. Again, it was, came down to service that we were consistently happy with. Our savings, and then the fact that we're working with a local.
Yeah.
Broker, it was a good reason to stick with Critical Breath.
So I'll make a motion to approve, any other,
I'll make my comment after the motion.
make motion to approve, North Risk Partners as the district benefit broker as presented.
Any other questions?
Well, you just,
Second.
Oh, yeah, second.
so I'll, just on the discussion side, I think a couple things that come to mind from a process standpoint, I think we need to have. I think this one kind of came out of. It emerged naturally as through some discussion. I think it's appropriate to have some standards for when we're gonna send our RFP. So rather than just an ad hoc. Do we send it out every 5 years? What contracts does it apply to? For example, when was the last time we did our people who service our EMC or other insurance, right? So we've got other contracts that we have. And we don't necessarily take a look at them. So when do we do it? What are the criteria for doing it? So some of them, like if I think about like the architect, it's like, well, we hire an architect, we keep an architect until we don't like the architect anymore, or they raise their fees and we say, well, let's see if we can find a better deal. And so we do some of these things kind of ad hoc. I think it would be better from a administrative procedure standpoint to have a process in place that says this is when we're gonna do it, and then just be checking that every year.
So maybe we can kind of work on that
Yeah,
outside of this and.
well, yeah, I agree. I just think, we've done this and, it's not bad to do it. It's just, but if we're gonna do it, we need to think more broadly about when do we do it? And, because now if somebody asks me, well, why did you do it for this one? And why didn't you do the other insurance?
Sure.
I'm like, I don't know why we didn't do the other insurance.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so I think we should just do that. So
And that's
Yeah.
not a policy per se, it's just.
Practice.
It's,
it can be administrative practice, right?
Okay.
for sure. And we can
think that would fall under financial.
Probably.
Contract.
probably,
Yeah, I think it falls on those people over there, and then they confer with you guys and say, this is what we think.
yeah, and I think Pat's got, like, she'll know exactly what we should be reviewing every so often.
Yeah.
This is my wheelhouse, like the healthcare aspect of this and it's just like your car insurance. It's like any insurance. You better check every so often to make sure that they just haven't gone on and not looked at your policy, and everybody else's policy is lower than yours now. So you bring up a good point, and so I think next steps will be just the financial committee in admin, just coming up with next, calendar. We're gonna make a recommendation on every 2 years, every 4 years, every 10 years.
Yeah, and I think, it would also be useful to get a list of those existing contractual relationships, which ones are out there that
For sure.
that we haven't thought about, so.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 4-0. Budget adjustment.
I move to approve the budget adjustment guarantee resolution for the 26-27 fiscal year, resolved that the board of directors of the Solon Community School District will levy property taxes for fiscal year 2026-2027 with the regular program budget adjusted as allowed under section 257.14 of the Iowa Code as presented.
Second.
Oh, second by Alaska, first by Brown, sorry. Any questions?
Most likely will not need it. This is just precautionary in case anything should go wrong.
Okay.
We're not gonna transfer $10 million from the wrong account. Oh, sorry, I'm not supposed to say that out loud.
Without permission. I said that too. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 4-0. First reading of board policy series 600.
Sure, so 600, I don't want to be brief, Cassie alluded to. We added a few under the 600s specifically to objection to instructional and library materials. requesting to prohibit a student from accessing or checking. As well as internet appropriate use and AI in the ed environment. Again, main things we're thinking about with internet use and AI, protecting data, protecting kids, appropriate use and intended use, right? And then also the assurance that a teacher is monitoring use kind of concurrently while it's going on. So those are all aligning with IASB. And then we kind of looked through a few updated language on some, due to law changes or just to update our language. And several of them, of the shalls to the wills.
Yeah.
We felt like that reflected better what our intent is to carry those out. And then some that were removed simply because IASB doesn't have policies that support, so perhaps were instituted interestingly in 2004.
Yeah.
Perhaps overreach time, where they just wanted a policy slapped on everything. But not necessarily anything that had teeth and that, like Cassie said, could be moved to handbook. So that is the 600 series. Anybody want to close that one out?
Offline, I'll want to follow up on the 606.06. To make sure that we have some stuff in there that I just want to make sure we're kosher with where we're at. And as the laws changed over the last few years, I want to make sure that one is, that's insufficient classroom space. I just want to make sure that
Oh, okay, thank you.
I just want to make sure that it was one we said we need to clean up the next time it came around, and as I read through it, I wasn't sure if it was sufficiently cleaned up yet or not, so.
And we can address that between
Second.
first and second.
Yeah, the first one's basically information.
As I said, it's probably, it may be fine as it is, but I want to do a double check on it because
Great.
we had some questions that popped up and we just need to make sure that we are in alignment, so.
Perfect, thank you.
I entertain a motion.
Move to approve the 600 series as presented.
Second.
Motion by Brown, second by Alaska, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? Passes 4-0. Next will be the first reading of the 300 series.
Sure, again, most of this was updated language.
Does anyone know why they don't like the word shall and they like the word will? Cause as I read through that, I'm like, it's all changing shall to will.
Yeah.
Can I speak to that?
It's contractual language,
Yeah.
shall's very.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
nothing more defined and definite than shall, so
Yeah,
I think they've softened it with will.
Okay.
Or is,
Uh-huh.
shall be.
Yeah, shall.
As I was reading through them yesterday, I'm like, all these in this section are mainly shall be's to wills. And I
Yes.
know sometimes the ISB recommends changes on those and such. I thought I'd ask the question because
I
it's,
mean, and it could have been like that in other ones, but now that I have that compare policies where it'll plug,
Yep.
those, highlight those words. I mean, maybe the shalls and wills have been around for a while and we just
never changed them. we just-
Yeah.
Yeah.
never changed them, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that, yeah, this whole exercise has highlighted like the value of using symbols.
Mhm.
Yep.
That the investment was made last year. So that time wise, Natalie and Davis don't have to invest near as much.
Yeah.
Yes,
And like, we get through a couple of years of this and I feel like.
Yeah.
The tuning it in is gonna be a lot easier. So thanks for your work on that.
I'll make a motion to approve the first reading of board policy series 300.
Second.
First by Alaska, second by
Len.
Lang. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? Passes 4-0. All right.
I'll move to approve the second reading of board policy 707.07, which I am 99.9% positive existed before the move. Because Pat and I talked about it when we started doing e-signatures and I know it was there.
I'll
So,
second that.
Okay, motion by Brown, second by Alaska, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 4-0. All right, next one, set the public hearing on property tax statement, fiscal year 2027. Pat, got anything or?
This is just the first one that was added. This is the third year. It was kind of confusing the first year. This is just saying the first of the hearings. It's just the where we're at, where we potentially could be, where we're actually at, just goes out to everybody. We have to have it voted by March 5th. Goes out to all the people in your district and then.
And then we have a public hearing where we all sit around and
Basically,
wait
yes.
15 minutes and no one shows up.
Your second hearing.
Well, we
same
did
thing,
some-
nobody-
We have,
We did, yeah.
okay, but he didn't want to talk about that. He just wanted
No, he
to.
just came by.
to visit.
Yeah.
I move to approve the public hearing on property tax statement fiscal year 2027 for March 26th, 5:45 PM as presented.
Motion by Brown,
Second.
second by Lang, all opposed, I almost said,
Yeah.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no, well, passes 4-0. Okay, informational items.
Just real quickly, staff recognition, if you haven't heard, Blake Williams is being inducted into the Iowa High School Athletic Association Hall of Fame for wrestling. So a shout out to Blake. And then also, Josh was part of this, but Amy Link and Matea Labs are nurses, submitted a SEF grant. And with that, we acquired 7 brand new AEDs, replacing very old ones, and 2 trainers. And you can see on the list, we're gonna have 12 AEDs across our district facilities.
Great.
Who's responsible for?
Amy.
What?
The batteries and all that's Amy.
Amy's my go-to person.
She's our go-to
I gotta ask
person.
her all the time to make sure
She
we have
checks
what we
them
need.
and, yeah.
then we also purchased and replaced all the old big wooden boxes with actual.
AED boxes.
Yes.
So I hate to also be this person, but I'll ask it anyway. Have we thought, so at the university, they've added, so we have one AED in our building that has a stop. So what they've located in our building, in each building, one of the AEDs has a stop the bleed kit attached to it.
They all have stopped bleeding.
Okay.
Kits.
Yeah, and remember 2 years ago, we put all the staff through that training.
I knew we did that. I
Yeah.
just wasn't
And
sure.
Amy, and Amy and Matea, they're gonna get, for the metal boxes, they're looking into through Grantwood, getting like. Magnets or something that kind of lists out, here's all the things, cause I have Narcan in there, stop the bleed. One other thing that we have in there too, but yeah. Those will have all those things in there.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Anything else? All right. If you're all okay, we're gonna table the board. Oh, no, we're not. Yeah, I thought it was, at first, no. I thought it was one of our board learning like things. Go. Yeah, go ahead, Pat. I thought it was one of those. Thank you, Pat.
Absolutely.
I wasn't trying to get rid of you.
No, you're
I thought
good.
it was district
Okay.
happy campers.
Good. This one here, don't look at this. This one is potentially what we're gonna see for next year. And I didn't have it just shared there just because there's been so much volatility as far as things, so. Okay, so data has up on the screen. This is current fiscal year, all the information up there. I tried to color code it and I'll keep this very basic, kind of higher level if you have questions, ask them.
Sure.
So the first thing is SSA is not officially set yet, surprise, this always happens all the time. Another thing, when you look at your tax rate, it's $1, it's not a percentage, or sometimes we refer to potentially as a percentage, it's actually dollar rate, and it's for $1,000 of taxable valuation. So we'll start up at the top, we've got your general fund, which is up until, it goes all the way down there until total general fund, so we've got your regular program district cost up there, which is roughly 4.8 million. So then in the vanilla color, that cash reserve there, scroll down toward the bottom, it shows cash reserve, and I tried to tell you it's an annual thing. It's something that the board can do, but it is formulary. What I mean by formulary, it's based on the last fiscal year's closed finances. It's a percentage of the expenditures, and then based on what our fund balance is, and if you have a number between those two, the difference, you have cash reserve levy. We've not had cash reserve levy availability for 4 years, and that's based on our finances. Going into fiscal 27, we actually have 194,000. So things have changed a little bit. So we will have, on that form I just gave you, we'll talk about that. We'll cash reserves. Second piece of the general fund is the instructional support levy, which is 10% of your regular program district cost with a little few caveats in it. It is funded, so if you look down a little bit further, it's in that kind of a greenish blue color there. Shows our expiration is 2032. Also shows that we've established all of that. The funding is general fund. It is done through property tax and it's done through income surtax. It used to have state aid They haven't had state aid since 2011. They said they're gonna appropriate it if it's cut. Reminder, so if you go higher on an income surtax, that means you're gonna get less in property taxes. Lower income surtax, more property taxes, so it's been kind of a variable between those two. So subtotal of general funds are about 5.5 mil. Next one is management fund, which is kind of in the, I don't know what the colors are, but anyway. That's a board, that's annual. That's used to pay the EMC insurance, which is property liability, fidelity bonds, all that fun stuff. Natural gas, and then we also added storm protection fund, should we have early retirement. That would be paid out of the management fund, any litigation, that comes out of the management fund.
So the management fund. There's, we've added things in there, I just want to be clear, we've added stuff in the management fund to move it out of
The general.
general fund. So when we talk about all those, we talk about utilities and those other things that we moved out of there. We bought into these plans, which are more like an insurance to cover our costs. And so because of that, we can pay for it out of management fund, which allows us to do more for our students out of the
that's
general
great. Thank
fund.
you. I should appreciate you.
Yeah, I was just thinking about our two people here that they may be going management fund, why are you paying for gas out of the management fund? And so
Very good.
it's a strategy we used as a product that we can basically treat it like insurance and it comes out of that fund.
Yes.
And so I just want, yeah, it's a,
Thank you, I appreciate that, so I forgot to mention, that. Perfect, and
Yep.
diverted funds from general over to management,
Yep.
totally equals to. The green, that's an easy color, couple, we've got two sets to the couple. And if you look down below, it shows 2036 is the expiration date, that was on your March 2023 election, so it's good for 10 years, so it's good for 2036. There's two prongs to the couple, one piece is the voter, which is $1.34, so you go up to $1.34. Second piece is the board, which is 33 cents, so between those, $1.67, and I think ours has been at $1.67 quite some time, we may have been off by a few hundreds of a cent here or there, but it's always been $1.67. Debt service then is kind of in that increased color, I chose, it's pretty color, so sorry. Debt service is voted. It's your March 2023 election, so pieces of that are in there, so you've got your 14, 15, 16 general obligation bonds, 23, 24, and 25 in there. $4.05, and that was voted on paper to the district to go up to $4.05.
just again, for clarity, it's like, even though people are like, well, there's more property, why doesn't that go down? We've made a decision to early pay the bonds because it saves us money in the long run by not continuing to pay interest. So we keep it constant, even though we want to just pay off the bonds that are coming due, that rate could go down, but then we're paying interest over time, which is actually costing us more money.
Exactly, which is if you scroll down to the next page, you can see off to the right hand side, the green notations over there, so what you use as reference, Tim. Those two green or four green ones there, that was where we get off 1.1 million early.
Yep.
About 300 and I think $346,000 interest savings for this one, so that was a really great decision by the board to do that, so that's perfect. This is all ISB data on this screen here, it just shows our property tax rate cumulatively over the years, and then percentages up and down. And then the last thing is something I just pulled in, this is just all Brantwood area school districts. Last year, current year, and their difference, tried to highlight in pink those that don't have a debt service. So imagine putting either 205 or 405 on those, and our rate is pretty compared to other people. Also within there are some districts that have a low management fund. Some of them don't do the $1.67 per couple, so there are a lot of variables out there. But I thought that was information just so you guys could see where we fell in that.
You can look at the different districts. What is,
Do you know, and I haven't looked recently, do you know what the TIF impact is on the district? Because I know we looked at that a few years ago, that the city TIF district. There's a report out there that tells us how much our taxes go up because so as a reminder, the TIF districts are the things the city uses, but then the city collects all the taxes on it. To pay off the TIF district, and so there's no school cut to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, tip implications for current fiscal year, I've got on my website, is actually, let's see. The property tax to other taxpayers about 23,000 roughly, it's out on the site, so every year once we actually get done with the budget, thank you. For the wild there for I
know that there's maybe it's just like one of the reports that tells you, that gives you, that has the list of what the TIF impact is in every school district in the state, so.
Yes. Okay, then the last sheet is the one that I just handed out. Okay, got this one pretty basic here because like I said, SSA is not known right now. So I've got, each of the separate funds and then listed if authority comes in at 1%, 2%, 3%, and 4%. Now, one thing I do want you to look at is that little pink box. Okay. So every year we've got valuation, which in normal years increases enough to do substantial things to it. Unfortunately, our valuation did not increase at the rate. But we sell $3.29 billion worth of our final bonds. Okay. So what we're recommending, and we talked with Tim Oswald, something like that, is that we actually pre-levy for the debt that we will sell. What that means is we hope next year January valuations would be enough that we could do that final bond round sale.
Yeah.
We're asking to actually stay at the 405 and pre-levy roughly $61,664 to pay against those bonds when we do sell them. That will keep our bond rate at 405. Now, I know this is not information, this is just information,
Yep.
but just kind of a head shake or something with everybody, because we kind of need to proceed. At the March meeting, I'll be here and be an item we need to address.
So by prepaying, we can keep the rate
Right,
at 405, and that's 61,000.
61,664, I believe 45 of that is principal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the only thing that fluctuates when you notice looking at this, the only thing that fluctuates is just general fund money. Everything else is already set. That 1, 2, 3, and 4, all it does is fluctuate your general fund. Still within, if you look down below, still stays within that range. We've been at roughly 1620 to 1628 range. So
So the valuation growth is, what window period is that? Is that, are we offset a year on that? Or is
it's gotta
it?
be, it's gotta be next year, because I thought for sure majority of Washington goes up, and so January 1st of 2025 was evaluations now, so I have to think that we're going to have to see January 2026 next year. We see those. There's gotta be a substantial place.
I just want to show, because I know that, the city's been purchasing properties and taking them off the tax rolls, and so. I know that was the past years, and so like Brosh's Chapel is off the tax rolls, and so that. So our tax, I was just trying to figure out why we didn't kind of hit that, and they purchased a bunch of the property uptown to redevelop downtown, so I think the residential growth in property values maybe was countered by a little bit by some of the things coming off the tax rolls.
Yeah, so we're very hopeful, like Tim had said, next year at this time, valuations come in, hopefully we sell that final round of bonds and we're off and looking at just a momentary level up, no problem. Questions that you have that I can answer?
No, only thing I saw was they're potentially taking some of the saved money and putting it towards property taxes. How much will that affect us? It's like sometimes as you moved across, it was $200 to $300 a student.
I haven't missed the official data yet.
Yeah.
That was a good comment that split today. That was another one of the discussions as far as once everything happens, providing all the data to school districts, so they know the true impact of everything. But
Okay. Anything else?
Very good stuff, Pat.
Yeah,
I'll be back.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
next year's budget, were you able to figure out what the water increase impact might be, or are you still digging through that?
Still digging through all of that. Yeah, I think until we, I kind of got the impact piece of it, but until we kind of, once we put a new building online, it would be kind of an estimate of the add of the building, what impacts. There's still a lot of logistics behind it, but I appreciate you asking. So.
All right.
We use a lot of water, so.
Yeah, I bet.
The water increases,
Big.
yeah.
All right, talking points. Piper, I'm gonna pick on you first.
I think the idea of the job shadow days is a good idea, and just want to touch back on what you guys said. I like that what you guys are doing with the reassessment process. I think it's going to be beneficial for a lot of students and how they're learning too.
Megan?
Yeah, I'm an old SEF at art, so I was glad to see that they came through with a really great grant that will affect all of our buildings.
Yep. Adam?
Oh. I'll use this last stuff with Pat. She's on top of it. I see this stuff go around. locally, you know, Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, just very appreciative and very precise and always thinking ahead. So thank you.
So it's always nice not to have a $10 million deficit.
Well, there was a text exchange between Davis and Pat and I recently, thinking that we aren't in the news.
Yeah.
So,
No, I guess for me, it's like, I'm really happy with the admin report on the teaching and learning, you know, we had that work session and it was good to see that the progress is being made on those topics. I think we've just got to keep at it and look at how we can provide the best education possible for all of our students.
yeah, and I'll just go off Tim's here. You know, I know it was work for you guys and I thought the strategic plan and then you guys coming up with this and I know it wasn't easy and it won't continue to be easy for some of the things, but I do think it is the right work. And I think it is inspirational to see you guys dig in and really look at these things. And the great news is we already had the scaffolding.
Mhm.
We just have to build it now. And so the scaffolding is what you guys already had in place for that strategic plan. And I do appreciate that work ahead of all this stuff. It's each of you has played a role. Pat's kept us financially right. You guys are keeping us right curriculum wise and assessment wise. And that's the exciting part about being in Solon and having the opportunities to move so quickly. You know what I mean? We're more the speedboat, not the ocean liner. It's easier for us to pivot. And so, yep. Next regular board meeting will be Tuesday, March 10th at 2026. We're early because of spring break.
Yep.
Yep. And second by Alaska. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 4-0. Let's get out.